Welcome to Box Free with Stephanie. Today I want to show you how to make some basic foods with simple ingredients from scratch. And I hope you discover cooking box free is fast and delicious. So let's cook together. Today we are going to make frozen peanut butter cups, or like frozen Reese's cups. So in my saucepan I have maybe like this much water. I'm going to put it on my hot stove, and I kind of preheated this because it was taking a while to get to boiling. But you can see it's already steaming, and what I'm doing is basically making a double boiler because I want to melt my chocolate chips. So the first thing I'm going to do, these little things are like individual little frozen Reese's peanut butter cups. And I saw the recipe a few years ago in a magazine, and I just thought it was kind of cool and simple. So we make these quite a bit in the summer because you can eat them when they're frozen, and they're kind of best frozen. So I have my double broiler, and however you have a double broiler, if you don't have pans that can fit inside of each other, you can just melt chocolate in the microwave, I'm sure. You just have to be careful you don't over melt it, or get it like too hot. So I'm going to do 2 cups of chocolate, which I think will be plenty. My recipe, I just kind of never measure this, so but I think 2 cups will be enough, and probably too much. But I'm using dark chocolate because that's what we like in my family. But this isn't a very sweet dessert, so if your family doesn't really like dark chocolate, or if it just needs that semi-sweet to make the whole frozen cup sweeter, then just use semi-sweet chocolate. It doesn't matter. I just like the dark. So all I'm doing is basically melting my chocolate, and you have to be a little bit patient with this because you do want it to be all melted, and you cannot get any water in it. So once I lift this out, I'm going to need to make sure I dry it off, and I can't get any drips of water into my chocolate because it will totally seize up and to become almost like really waxy. It's just really bizarre. And if you don't get water in it, then it does stay really nice and silky and smooth and pours right out. So so I don't know if you can see in here, but this is already kind of, almost halfway melted. So it doesn't take very long. So I'm going to, and you also don't want, when you're doing a double boiler, you don't want the bottom of your chocolate pan to touch the amount of water, to touch the surface of your water in your pan. So you'll only need like this much water. And then you don't really want a rolling boil of water. You want just kind of you want to bring it nice and hot, but then turn it down and almost let it just simmer. Because again, I think if you do have that rolling boil, then you're more likely to get too much steam, and it'll just get too hot. You want your chocolate to melt kind of slowly, but wow, mine's melting really fast today. So that's okay as long as I don't have any water in it. So because this is almost ready, I got to get going over here. So the original recipe called for using a mini muffin pan and then putting foil liners in that. And I never have mini foil liners, and I like these reusable silicone things, so I just do it this way. And I have done it in a mini muffin pan without a liner, and that isn't too bad, but they're just a little bit hard to get out. So usually when I do that, I kind of take them out of the freezer, and then I run them under hot water upside down, let just a tiny bit of hot water melt the surface of that, the upside down part of the cupcake or whatever, and then that loosens it. And then you have these really nice bite-sized ones. So either do like the little mini foils, or maybe you have little mini versions of silicone ones, or you got these or whatever. I mean, you can just do whatever size you have. I just happen to have this size. So now hopefully you can see this is just all silky and smooth, and it looks absolutely perfect. So I'm going to turn this to pretty much off, but a very low simmer. And now I'm going to just put a very light layer of chocolate in each of my little cups. And normally, I guess I lift this up, but then I'm going to be in the way of the camera, so we'll just see how this works here. So I'm just going to take this, and I do probably a teaspoon of chocolate. It's really not very much. These end up being very small, thin kind of desserts, which is fine. It's not like a huge piece of cake you're eating. It's just a nice little treat. So I'm going to kind of do this and get them all in there. And then I'm going to actually do half of them, because what I want to do I don't know if you can see, but it's only like spread out halfway. So I'm just going to kind of move these around so that the entire bottom is covered. Because right here, if you can see, you can't see because as soon as I turn it, it turns, but the chocolate is like staying put and the cupcake thing is, the liner is like this big. So you just want to either, you can use your little spoon and just push it out like that. But then you run the risk of getting it all blobby and messy like I just did. So either way, you just want to make sure that you have it, the bottom of your muffin tin or cupcake liner is covered in chocolate. And then we're going to pop these in the freezer to let this harden a little bit. I've never made them without doing that step, but the recipe doesn't really say to do that. But I just feel like I want this to be hard before I add my peanut butter mixture. So I'm just going to spread these around. This one's a little bit slow. Oh, that's really slow. Okay. And so if you were doing mini ones, I mean, these are just itty bitty mini cute little cups, dessert cups. But they're kind of fun to bring like to a party. But I guess they do have to be pretty much frozen, so maybe they wouldn't work very well for a party. But if you're having a party, then they'd be kind of fun. So I don't know, you can see like how much chocolate is in there. It's like just a teeny tiny amount. So they're very, very thin on the bottom. So I'm going to put these in the freezer. And you just have to have place in your freezer where it's like flat so they cannot end up like this, of course, because all the chocolate would run down. Okay, so now I want to kind of, I guess I don't want to pull that out, but I want to make sure my chocolate stays warm and kind of melty while I'm making my inside, the guts to my peanut butter cups. All right, so this recipe was originally called like sea salted nutter butt cups. Like that's just way too complicated to say in my opinion. So I usually at home just call them my Reese's cups, frozen Reese's cups. But I'm going to call them frozen peanut butter cups. So all you do is 2 ingredients. You do peanut butter and banana. So it's kind of when I saw the peanut butter with the banana to make these Reese's cups, I thought it was really funky. And like that's kind of what made me want to try the recipe out. And I did, and then I really liked it. So I don't know, it's just kind of a nice way to have a peanut butter cup and get a little banana stuck in there. So if you have somebody who doesn't like bananas, I'm sure they would never taste it. Okay, so I'm doing half a cup into my bowl. And then this is a little bit messy, so let's see, I think I'll take this thing. And I don't know that I've ever doubled the recipe on this. I don't think I have. But I'm going to grab that off of there because I did just wipe my counter off. My friend would be like, don't do it off your counter. But I do. So I did. Don't tell Tracy. No, I love Tracy. She's been my best friend for like literally forever. So it's pretty cool. Okay, and then I have a banana. And if you noticed, my banana was like really ripe. So this is like ready for banana bread, but we're going to just dump it in there. And we're going to make frozen Reese's cups, peanut butter cups instead. So now you just take your spoon and you just mash it up. You could do maybe a fork, but I don't know. It just seems like it takes longer. And all you're really doing is trying to get that banana mashed into your peanut butter. Hang on, I got to stir this to make sure it's not getting too hot. If your chocolate is getting too hot, you should be able to see it on the bottom of your pan. It'll start like burning and sticking, and then that's not what you want. So then you just turn it down. But this is beautiful. It looks very nice. There's no hard spots or sticky spots on the bottom. So back to this. You want to basically mash this so that all your banana pieces are pretty much dissolved. Like you don't really want people to know there's banana in it. So you don't really want them to get a chunk of banana. You want it all just mixed in. And I don't know, maybe you could use a blender, or a mixer. I guess I never really thought about that. But it doesn't take too long, and it doesn't have to be like perfect. But you end up with this almost like frothy peanut butter. And you like, there's a teeny tiny bit of banana, and there's another banana, but like that's okay. You just don't want, like a pinky size piece of banana. I think I just saw a pinky size piece of banana. Got to get it out of there. All right, so that's all you end up with. And I am going to kind of get this all into one area in my bowl, because you don't, like, this recipe is just kind of weird. You don't have a lot of anything because you're making just these small cups. So that's all I have is, oh, here, this is a measuring bowl. Let's just measure how much we have. Like a solid cup, maybe even a cup and a half of the guts. So that'll be nice. And so it just turns out to be this really nice, almost like a lighter peanut butter. Okay, so now I'm going to pull out my frozen things. Okay, they look perfect. Now they're like dull because they're not shiny. They're not, oh my gosh, they're not unfrozen. They're whatever, I can't think of the word. So this is nice and pretty much oopsie, not rock hard. Okay. Oh, that's funny. Don't stick your finger in the middle of it, but just know that it is pretty solid. Very much solid enough to add this ingredient now. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so now that I kind of made a mess of that, but that's all right. Nobody will ever see that one. So, and it's for my family, so it's all right. Okay, so I'm going to take about this much, which is like, I don't know, a teaspoon or two. And then this one, you really do kind of have to spread it around. But before I do that, I'm going to basically make sure I have enough insides for all 12 of my cups. So I'm going to just divvy this out and then make sure that I have enough. And if I have extra, then I can add it to the ones that have a little bit less. And I am seeing little bitty pieces of banana, and that's okay, but you just don't want, like I said, those giant chunks. Okay, so look how much I have left. It's like I haven't even hardly used any of it. So there's some of these that don't have very much. So now I can go back and refill them. And that's why I didn't want to spread it all out until I saw how much I really need to fill in the rest of these. So I don't know, maybe if I would have followed the original recipe, everything would have been just easy as pie, and I would know exactly how much goes in each one, but I just don't cook that way. I just like wing it all the time. And I don't know, I think that's kind of the fun of cooking from scratch. You just throw things in and it usually turns out, and get to be a little creative, and I don't know, I think that's creative anyway. Or else you're just like pressing your luck, I suppose some people would say. Okay, that's it. So now I'm going to take my little spatula and just flatten them out, because what I want to do is make a flat surface so that I can put the rest of my chocolate on top. So like I could never do it like that. That's just way too bumpy and there's no nice surface. So I'm going to take my time and smooth it out basically like that so that it is a nice surface. All right, and then this takes a little bit of time. So if you were doing mini ones, when I have done the mini ones in a little muffin pan, I do kind of like them. They're almost like a one-biter type of dessert, where this thing is like way bigger and it takes, several bites to eat. But the one thing that we've noticed when we do let these kind of thaw out, because you just keep these in the freezer in a little baggie, or a big baggie, I guess. But when they thaw out, then the chocolate on the top and the bottom, it's like it's too thick or something. When you go to bite it, then it just like an Oreo or something that gets all like smashed in, and so then you kind of, it ends up being kind of messy. It's certainly like edible and everything, but I just don't like how messy it gets, because then your peanut butter stuff like squeezes out. So anyway, it's kind of a silly reason, but I do like them frozen too because they just taste good. It's nice, and it's a nice thing for the summer when it's hot and you want something frozen and chocolatey, but not just like all sugar and not all dairy. So, okay, so I'm gonna call that good enough. So you can see like this one's really little and this one's kind of big, and that's because I don't measure every single thing all the time. And I have a lot of nice chocolate here, so I'll be able to really cover them up. Okay, so now I'm gonna turn this thing off completely. And now I'm just going to assume I've got plenty of chocolate. I'm just going to drizzle it all over. And then you're done. You let them freeze for like a half an hour. And they are ready to eat. So I usually keep mine in the little tins here, or they're molds. Oh my gosh, silicone molds. That's what it is. I keep them in the mold until we're ready to eat. And then when you want one, we take it out of the little gallon Ziploc bag and then just pop it out of the silicone then. But when I do the mini ones actually in my mini muffin pan that don't have a liner, then I just keep them loose in the bag, obviously, because they don't have a liner. So, all right, so I've got plenty of chocolate, so I'm gonna go over and double dip a few of these. And then once I've spread out my chocolate all over, then I'm going to go back and make sure every surface of peanut butter is covered. Oh, and then I was going to do the sea salt. I don't always do the sea salt on top, but I've got this like big, oopsie. Oh my gosh, you guys, I just spilled water out of my pan. I don't always do it that way where I'm like dumping it out. So I just got water in this one and this one. Oh, and I don't know if you can see, but it's like my chocolate's like hardening. So, whew, that was lucky that I only wrecked 2 of them. Okay, so this flattens out pretty easy. I don't know if you can see, but it just like, you just kind of push down on your spoon and the chocolate just goes like, and like spreads out all over. Okay, these 2 are my crazy water ones that I said like, be careful with your water, and then I practically dump it in there. Oh well, it will work out. It'll be okay. All right, so this one got a little bit messy, but like this one looks really good, and if you really cared, you could like go through and clean up your edges, but I think that's a little bit unnecessary. Okay, so we are going to pop them in the freezer. That's it. That's what they look like. So we will be back in a few minutes, and I'll try to pop one out for you. All right, I'm going to put these in the freezer and see what I can do. Hang on. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, you guys, I don't know if you were paying attention, but I talked about putting sea salt on them, and then I completely forgot. So I just pulled them out of the freezer. Like, it's been like, what, a minute or something. And I've got my coarse ground salt. And so I just am going to sprinkle this on top. And you can do as light or little as you want. But it does give it a nice, like, sweet, salty taste. So it is kind of cool to have them. But I think I'm going to do only half of mine because I don't always like the salt taste. So anyway, that's what it looks like. I just wanted to show you quick. So I'm going to put them back in the freezer, and then we'll come back in a little bit. We are back. It's been almost 2 hours since my peanut butter cups are freezing, and they are frozen. So we're going to pull them out. So these are the 6 that did not have the salt, and these are, and you can tell like even this coarse salt is like barely visible. It's kind of interesting. But I'm going to pop one out. Oh, and I think these are my 2 that I dumped the water in, and they look pretty good. Like there's a little bit of weird stuff on this one, but I don't think anybody's ever going to know. So these silicone molds are really nice because they just unpeel like that. And then you end up with this super cute little Reese's cup. And I like the striped look. Personally, I think that's kind of cute. The little chocolate pieces do fall off and like get kind of all over, and then they melt and stuff. But so they're rock solid. Uh-oh. No, they're not. So remember how I was saying that that if you eat them when they're kind of melty, they squish out like that, and that's what happened. So because it's only been 2 hours, the peanut butter isn't like solid as a brick. But if you wait and keep them in overnight or whatever, then they really are solid. And then when you take a bite, it doesn't like squish in like that. But then they're much harder to eat almost because they are like rock solid. But by the time you're done getting through them, they've kind of softened up, and that's it. So yeah, this is my little peanut butter cup that I think are pretty good. I like them as little treats. So they just get messy. So don't eat them on the furniture. Okay, that's it. So thank you very much for watching Box for You with Stephanie. I hope you like the show. I hope you make frozen peanut butter cups and your family thinks they're just a perfect treat for a hot summer day. And I appreciate your time in watching the show. And I will catch you guys at the next show. All right, thanks. Bye.